This is the last Thursday of the month. I usually do a slightly longer meditation, so the class is going to be the same length, but I'll do a shorter talk and a longer meditation. And if you have questions about meditating or anything else about martial arts or life, and as much as I can give you my experience, then that's next week. We do question and answer the first Thursday of the month. So, this is the final adjustment, I swear. This week I'm talking about a kind of a simple idea, and we'll get it into meditation and the rest of our practice. So the question of the week in the dojo is, what are you learning about yourself through learning martial arts? And I know that you guys don't do martial arts with us. Have you ever done any martial arts ever?
I did a little jiu-jitsu.
Okay, so you will have learned something about yourself, even if it's that I'm bad at jiu-jitsu, which is what most of us learn when we try to do jiu-jitsu, right? So we, in our journey of learning anything that's worth it is difficult, right? And so one of the things that a lot of us learn, and I like to take some inspiration from this newsletter that James Clear puts out. He's the author of Atomic Habits. If you guys haven't read this book, I highly recommend it. It's great, especially this time of year, forming habits as we're setting goals for the new year. But one of the quotes that he gave this week is, I'm going to totally paraphrase it because it was like 2 paragraphs long, but he says that one of the biggest issues that people have is we become victims of our own expectations, and we have, high expectations, and then when we don't meet them, then we feel like we failed, and we often give up. And so this happens in martial arts all the time. We know, we say the 5 ways of becoming great at martial arts. What's the second way? The first way is patience. The second way is perseverance. So it's because you have to be patient, because it takes a long time. You have to persevere because you try and you fail and you try again. And so the issue is not necessarily with our performance, it's with our expectation. And this is true of everything in life. This is like the cycle of desire. We desire something, we don't get it, we're unhappy. Or we desire something, we get it, and so then we desire something else, something bigger, something better, or something different. And so we're constantly chasing our desires or getting disappointed by not reaching them. So with our practice, this is something that I've experienced many times, and I think most people do as well, is we have these expectations, and so we don't meet them very often, and so we are feeling bad about ourselves. And again, we give up. Even if we don't completely quit, we just kind of decide like, well, I'm just not going to get this right now. I'll just maybe come back and do it later. Same thing happens with meditation. So you might not have many expectations having this be your first meditation class, but when I took my first meditation class, I was like, I'm going to just be the best meditator. I'm going to sit totally still. I'm not going to have any thoughts. It's going to be perfect. I'm going to be like a Buddha right now. And I actually felt that way for like maybe 5 minutes. I had a really good breath, like one good breath, where I just felt like I was watching the breath and I had no other thoughts, and I was like, yes, I'm amazing. And then I lost it, and then I spent the next 25 minutes of meditation just like curled up in a ball in the back of the room because I couldn't even sit properly. And so my expectations were not met, and I felt like, boy, this is really hard. And that's one of the reasons that I actually fell in love with it, is because of the challenge. I thought, like, this is something that I can really sink my teeth into. And so that's something that I've learned about myself, is I used to hate challenges. I used to just give up right away when something was difficult. And I have learned that I can actually really enjoy the challenge. And this is what James Clear kind of talks about in this part of the newsletter this week, was the answer is not actually to set low expectations or not have expectations for ourselves, right? Let's say that you're trying to learn a kick, to use a simple example that everyone can understand, and you're trying to kick this high, this is hard, right? Versus trying to kick this high, this is very easy. The answer is not like to pretend that you're kicking a 2-year-old. That's too easy. The answer is to set the high expectations. Like literally the expectation is a really high kick. And if I end up kicking this high, wonderful. Unlikely. If I try to kick this high the first time, if I haven't stretched, I'll pull something and get hurt. But wherever my kick lands, I go, okay, so now I adapt and decide like, well, then that my expectation is going to be just above that for the next one. Or I realize what I did wrong so that I can work on getting it higher the next time. So when we set these high expectations for ourselves and then we inevitably fail, instead of just giving up, we learn like how to adapt and how to keep pushing through, how to persevere. And meditation is absolutely going to be the same. So you might have the expectation of, I'm going to sit still, and that doesn't happen. Now look, my expectation is that you sit still. So try to sit still as possible. Even you guys at home, sit still. But if you move a little bit, just try to come back to the still good posture that you're in. Your expectation might be that you're going to be able to let go of thoughts and just be, totally still internally. That is not going to happen. But you will probably be more still than you were before, and that's great. So now, I want to do this, which I don't normally do, but I'm going to open this up, and I'll start with Mariam, and then Davia is going to come out here if she's figured out whatever she's trying to figure out over there. And then even you guys at home on Zoom, if you've got something to give me, you can do this as well. So what I'm looking for is, what are you, I'm not going to ask you to because you're not practicing martial arts right now, but what are you learning through practicing martial arts about yourself? Don't tell me, I know to punch with the top two knuckles. Tell me, like, what are you learning about yourself?
Be patient, be present.
You're learning that you should be, or that you are, or that you learn how to do that?
I learned in martial arts to be present and be patient.
This is great. Now let me clarify my question a little bit. The question is, what are you learning about yourself? So maybe you're learning that you were not patient.
I wasn't patient and I wasn't present. So I remember in my few classes when I started, especially we were talking to how to do technique, and then we started to bring it down. And it was, after we done, I forgot everything because I was listening.
Oh, yes. You learned that you weren't listening.
Yeah.
Now, am I the first person that you haven't listened to?
No.
Has that happened to other people in your life?
Yes.
They think Mariam.
Like they were talking and my mind was somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Not totally, but
Not as much. Now, this is wonderful because if we can learn, the first step is realizing that you have a problem, right? You learn that you're not listening enough. And then this is what our practice is all about on some level. If you can't listen, you are not going to get it because it's all about partner work, right? If you can't listen to or kind of see what your partner is doing, then you're in big trouble. Someone is going to get hurt probably. Meditation is listening, but it's listening to yourself, and then it's listening to what is beyond yourself. So my Sifu describes meditation this way. If prayer is talking to God or the universe, whatever you believe in, if prayer is talking to, then meditation is listening to. And I love this idea. I am just here and just listening. And today, what's there? What's there is a bunch of thoughts that are rolling around my head. Okay. And then I try to let go of those so that I can listen to what's beyond that. And what's beyond that could be what feels like what's above it, like God is talking to me this way. It could feel like what's deeper within me, what's kind of beyond the ego and the incessant thinking. It could just be listening to the breath. But meditation on some level is definitely listening. So that's a great thing to learn about yourself and learn how to do. Go ahead. What are you learning about yourself? Tell me something different from what she said.
I'm learning that the journey I don't need to know like exactly where it's gonna go necessarily. I feel like it's important to have, a map, but you don't have to draw every single step and feel like, it's all planned and organized and versus just, I guess it is still being present essentially.
Yeah, no, but this is good. So are you saying that you used to need to know everything every step of the way? Or were you like me, where I didn't actually care that much about it, where it was going?
Kind of like, and I didn't care, but if I didn't care, then it was like, well, it has to be perfect. Like this, I was actually talking to Deborah about perfectionism and like feeling like it has to be right. So if I'm going to do
Deborah is a perfectionist? No, not her. Come on.
Yeah, so it was like that. Like it was very
That's great.
versus just like being present and like accepting where I am in the journey at the moment and like, you know, going with it like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a super important thing to be able to do. And right, as you mentioned the ego, like that's what the ego wants. The ego wants to know what's happening. And this is, look, the ego, this is important for us to talk about from time to time. The ego, on some level, meditation is about just letting go of the ego. Right? The ego, if we think of it, is like the small self and like all the thinking and all the noise and all that stuff. The ego is the thing that desires, and the ego is the thing that thinks you're terrible at meditation and all that stuff. But the ego serves a purpose. There's a reason we have one. The ego is partly the thing that helps us to know what's next, to help us survive. If you didn't have an idea of what was going to happen in the near future and you just like walked out into traffic, then it wouldn't go well for you. So you have to have this thing. And it is necessary to have this compulsion to know where I'm going and to know what's next. And in this meditation that you'll do tonight, for example, we want to be able to practice letting go of that and to just be in the present and to not know where we're going or really what we're supposed to be doing or any of that. And so meditation is also a practice of letting go. So when we let go, we can, hear what is deeper, we can listen to that, and we can be okay with what you're describing, the unknown. And that is a very difficult thing for human beings. But it kind of gives our logical brain, that predicting brain that's always trying to kick in, it gives all that a break and just lets us be in the present. As you said, just being present. I think we have time for one or two more. Anybody at home have something pressing you want to share with us on Zoom, something that you're learning about yourself? Don't tell me a thing that you learned how to do. I want to know the thing that you are learning about yourself. Tanya.
So I'm learning that I tend to put a lot of limits on myself, and that when facing any kind of a challenge, and I learned this through the challenges that we do there at the dojo, when faced with any kind of challenge, the possibility that I can overcome that challenge, that I can meet it, really has to do with my very first decision when I'm faced with it. Do I accept it or not? And there are a lot of things in life in general that we can say, oh, I should do this, I should accept this challenge, I should try this, and then actually really accepting it.
That's beautiful and that's brilliant. Yeah, and that's great that you recognize that your first thought is so important as it is. And you hear me talk about the second thought sometimes, because usually our first thought sucks. Our first thought is like, I can't do this. And then the second thought needs to be, but wait a minute, can I? But you're right. If you can train yourself to have your first thought be something that's great and sends you in the direction that you want to go in, then that's wonderful. And then if that doesn't work, then have a good second thought. Deborah, go ahead.
I have an issue with being perfect. And even, can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you, Deborah. And look, I don't have an issue with you being perfect, just so you know. You're the one that has an issue with your issue being perfect.
I have an issue, and
go ahead.
Even though I know it's not realistic, I still hold on to this concept of being perfect. And Davey had helped me 2 weeks ago when I had finished the 108 and I wanted to go back and start all over again. And she explained to me that in Tai Chi, you're always evolving. And she used the analogy of a mountain. And she says you're constantly climbing up this mountain. and there's no top to the mountain, that you're always going up the mountain. And when she said that, it put everything in perspective, that even though I know the etymology of perfection is to be finished, there is no finish in Tai Chi or in life, in me, in anything. And this has helped me tremendously. And I love this school.
Well, we love you too, and that's really nice. Isn't that great how that just clears it up for you? Because yeah, you're like, I'm supposed to get to this place and I need to make it perfect, but when you realize that there is no place to get to, if it is like really a mountain without a top and you just would always keep climbing past it, then that frees you up to just be exactly where you're supposed to be right now. Rather, where you are supposed to be is exactly where you are right now, and that's wonderful. It's the same thing with meditation, right? We have the expectation of being a certain something or like to try to be perfect, but if you take the attitude of who's the Shunryu Suzuki, who wrote Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. This is a really wonderful book, dry at times, but great. One of the best books about meditation. We have it in the lobby. And he says that the point of meditation is just to sit. There is nothing else that you're trying to get to. Now, on one level, what he's saying is if you just show up and sit and you're alive, then you're already doing everything that there is to do. So that's nice because it's like I'm already perfect by just being here. And that really is it. I mean, meditation is trying to help us understand that we are perfect already by just being here. And by being here, we are the most perfect version of ourselves. But then also this idea of like, there's no like end goal to get to. We're not sitting here trying to become Buddha. We're not sitting here trying to become anything. We just are being here, and anything else that we're trying to put on top of that is just extra. So that frees us up to just be. You got one, Kaya? Or is that a perfect place to end? Go ahead.
Basically, if I put the work in, I could accomplish anything, but over time, like often I'll start thinking, when I first started, I was like, I'm terrible at this, but I've seen the growth, and it's just the consistency of doing it over, and it's extended to other areas of my life as well.
Yeah, wonderful. If you put in the time, amazing things will happen. In meditation, we talk about the three kind of things that we focus on, where first you focus on consistency. So if you're meditating very sporadically, and like Kaya, she practiced really consistently for years, and then moved to New York, back to Brooklyn, was just gone, and then came back, and it hadn't gotten better while she was gone, because that's not what happens. Unless you're like Tanya and you practice on Zoom like every day, and you practice in 2 or 3 other styles while you're in Paris. But in any case, most people don't get good if they're not coming. And it's the same thing with meditation. You will not get better at meditating by not meditating. You have to meditate. And so consistent practice, daily practice, that's the first step, right? And then your meditation can get longer, and then your meditation can get deeper. But you're absolutely right. We kind of learn this through our martial arts practice too. Like with consistent energy and effort, we can accomplish amazing things. And even though it might seem totally impossible and fruitless in the beginning, it kind of adds on and stacks on and eventually becomes something really amazing, even though that something amazing is a mountain without a top. Okay. So we're going to sit comfortably. I'll go over posture and different ideas here. So again, I like to sit in Seiza. You can sit on your knees or cross-legged. The important thing here is to not have your knees sticking up too high. So you're great. If your knees are sticking up well above your hips, then you're going to have a tendency to have pain in the hips and the knees, and then your legs will fall asleep. And when I say your legs fall asleep, what I really mean is you get like the pins and needles, and it really is quite painful. So you don't want that. So however you can sit comfortably is good. And you want your spine straight. So your shoulders are rolled back and relaxed. You don't want to let yourself slouch like this. Very common thing that people do. And your hands, usually upturning them at your hips, together or separate is good. If you let them, again, slide down and your shoulders start to follow, that's not what we want. So this is good. You can hit the lights, man. So as far as your spine being straight goes, your shoulders are here, your chin is parallel to the ground, and your eyes are closed, and you're looking slightly upwards. Now, there are many different types of meditation. The one that we do the most often is this Zazen, where we're just sitting and breathing, and you're watching the thoughts, you're aware of your thoughts, and you're just letting them go. And the posture will aid you in staying alert and staying mindful, and it will aid you in breathing nice and deeply. So, the eyes, I mentioned that. Your eyes, again, some styles of meditation, your eyes are open. In this style, they're closed and slightly upturned, and this can help you to stay alert as well. The raised eyes are associated with a raised consciousness. And to get that specific position with your eyes, you can just imagine the space basically on the center of your forehead. And if you just kind of visualize that spot, your eyes will probably naturally raise up slightly, and that's what we're looking for. If that doesn't work, you can actually touch your forehead on that spot and feel that spot. Your eyes will naturally raise up. Or if that doesn't work, you can open your eyes and look out in the distance above your head slightly. And then you can close your eyes and just keep that position. What we don't want is for our eyes to be crossed. So if you feel like you're getting a headache during meditation, it's very likely that you're crossing your eyes. So just looking off in the distance and raised up is a good place to go if you're struggling with that. So let's do a couple of deep breaths together. Begin with all the breath out. You're going to breathe in through your nose. Hold it at the top for a few seconds and breathe out. So in is always through your nose. Hold it for 2 or 3 seconds. And out can be through the nose or the mouth. Make sure you're breathing from the belly, so you're inflating like a balloon, using the diaphragm. Hold it, and breathing out. Again, trying to involve the diaphragm as you exhale. So a decent, mostly full exhale, and then that lets you inhale more fully. Again, a little slower, a little deeper. Hold. Out a little slower. Two more. Last breath. Finish with a double exhale. And then just let your breath come in and let it go out. You're no longer trying to do anything specific with the breath. You're just allowing it to happen. And continue refocusing on the breath. So tonight, if you find that it's difficult for you to stay focused on the breath alone, you can also do a body scan as you are just basically feeling one part of your body and just feel that part. Like you start with your feet and just feel your feet as you're breathing. And you might feel a bit of like an energetic vibration as you're inhaling. And feel how that changes slightly as you're exhaling. And you can move up to your ankles, your calves. And you can just kind of scan one body part at a time. Hold it for a breath, and then do the next one. If you do notice that you have a consistent, incessant thought, something keeps popping into your mind, instead of beating yourself up about that, remember, we're already accomplishing everything we're setting out to by just sitting here and breathing. So you don't need to beat yourself up, but just label that as thought. So there's no judgment. There's nothing that is wrong or right about it. It's just thought. So when you label it that way, that allows you to return back to the breath. Continue returning to the breath as often as you can. And try to stay as still as possible as you're breathing. We'll do this for about 10 more minutes.